Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nitzy coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today. I wanted to talk about how to tame harsh vocals. When I think about like the throwback times, like a vintage songs, I never really ever think of hearing any type of harshness in their vocals, or I never heard of back in the day people saying they had a problem with harsh vocals. So that's why I wanted to do a video about this a little bit further, because back in the day they had something like tape. You know, they also had the gear and the microphones and the console doing some of that soft, saturation, really just taking the edge, mellowing out the signal a lot. So that's something that I really wanted to go into a little bit deeper. And we're going to talk about two different types of plugins today, which is going to be the Soothe 2 and also as well as the McDSP SA2A and also the Waves C4. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of different ways in depth that I like to really de-harsh vocals. So this is going to be really like in depth, a little bit more going into it. And if you guys do have any more different types of videos y'all want to see down below, go ahead and drop it. I'm more than happy to get to it. Let's not waste no time. This is a recent mix I did for artist Glow Kid C, and I'll drop his links down below for the song, or his Instagram, whichever one I get first. So I'm gonna go ahead and play it right now. Let's not waste no time. Let's go.
Thought he skipped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give me. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home, man, who you can. Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, say that she fiendin'.
Ooh, okay, so let's look at this a little bit further. This was a very interesting situation because when I got the vocals, it was a situation where also the beat as well. You got to understand where the car is at inside of the whole context of the parking lot. So when I'm shaping that high end, usually sometimes the Ks inside of a vocal, like 2K, 3K, 4K, they start to become overlapping with the beat. So listen to the beat in his flow. He's doing like that bouncy flow right here, but then there was also that little chant, that little Zaytoven chant, and it started to get really crunchy. So before you even do any processing of trying to tame harshness, you need to understand like the relative positioning of where like the frequencies in the vocal is staying at in the hood. Where is it staying at in the house or apartment? You got to understand where it's getting in to fit in. So listen to this real quick. Listen to the inside of the beat and how it starts to crunch up with his vocal a little bit.
Thought he skipped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give me. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make it.
So that's the main thing that you got to understand about harsh vocals is like the relative positioning. How are you going to mold this to fit inside of the beat? Because some beats don't have stuff like that. So it might not be a problem too much, so you always got to listen to the beat, and the beat is going to tell you, okay, you can put this, item inside of my house right here, because the beat is like a house and you're trying to put the vocal into the house, like a guest. So you got to understand, you got to get in where you fit in. I use two different types of, Soothe right here. And Soothe is a pretty interesting plugin. I'm going to show you guys how to, some different alternative ways if you can't afford this plugin because it's very expensive. But pretty much what it is like a bunch of multi-band dynamics processing. So I use two different types of Soothe, one for the low mid and also one for the higher mid, take the edge off. So it's pretty interesting too. Something like compression can actually bring out more of the harshness, because essentially what you're doing is you're compacting the signal. So that's something important to understand as well, like the order of the plugins and where you put everything at. Like, for example, I put my Soothe before I even hit it with that first layer of optical compression. This is what I always talking about. You see how the vocals were recorded? They weren't recorded with compression. So I use the SA2A to level it out. But usually when you use something like an SA2A, it has a slow attack. So it lets a lot of the transients come in, which is very good. That's what we want. But that slow release, it really holding it down can really start to like squeeze everything out of it. It's kind of like if you had like a little like a go-gurt or yogurt and you started to like press it out a little bit, what's going to happen? Like, more of that stuff is going to start coming out of it, whether it be like the sweetness and everything like that of the vocal, but also like some of the other parts of it. You know what I mean? You might have a piece of plastic or whatever come out of that go-gurt if you squeeze it too hard. So that's what compression is like too. And then after that, let's listen to the original vocal and understand like the history of multiband dynamics processing, okay? So with multiband dynamics processing, there's two types originally hardware that I'm aware of. One is the SMC2B, and this is like a tube tech CL1B, but in a multiband format. The only plugin I can think that could, recreate this bit, it gotta be the PSP old timer multiband. So I might just do a video on that one too. But the main thing about this is that, a guy like Al Schmidt, he used to really like to use that bit for like taming the harshness of his drum bus or maybe his mix bus as well. So multiband compression, it's been a part of music for a long time, even when they did have tape. Nowadays, when we think of multiband, you think of Soothe, you think of C4, you think of like deharshing and stuff like that, but it's also very musical as well. So then after that, you got something like the Drummer 1973. And the Drummer 1973, that bit is also, a FET compressor, a multiband compressor, but it's using FET. So this one is kind of using the same parts like in 1176, you know what I mean? And this one is a little bit more responsive, okay? And that's a thing I want you guys to understand too, is like the responsiveness of a compressor is pretty important. Like look at the C4 right here, okay? You see this bottom right corner right here where it says behavior? That's kind of what it's talking about, So an optical compressor or multiband don't behave like an electro. So electro is the fat one, and then opto is the slower one. So that's something that's important to know, because if the multiband compression is too slow, you might have that bit working, but it's not gonna hit the S's fast enough, or it's not going to hit the low mid fast enough, because you got to understand the speed of how quick the sounds move. So the lower frequencies, they move slower. The higher frequencies, they move faster. So let's look at the C4 really quickly so you guys can get a better understanding of that. So I'm going to inactivate this, and we're going to start from step one, right? Of how I tame harsh vocals, yeah? Like the rawness, okay? So basic compression and a basic EQ. Okay, cool. We don't need to look at that. Now, usually at that point, I would bring in a de-esser or a multiband compressor. So let's pay attention to, let's look at how quick the waves actually move. Pay attention.
He scrape the ceiling, push up on him, make him give me. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you can. Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, found myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, say that she fiendin'.
So I started out with a preset like this, which is a bass comp / de-esser. And essentially what we got is two focus positions. The first focus position is on the high end. Usually like that harshness will be in the Ks, which is what I'm talking about. Understanding the Ks inside of the beat, like 1K, 2K, listening to that, the hi-hats, listening to the open hi-hats, listening to the this Zaytoven stuff, understanding how much of the Ks are inside the beat, right? And then when I listen to the vocal, I'm listening to how like crunchy the vocal might sound, or how, the K frequencies of the vocal might be, and I'm paying attention to that, how that sounds like in relation. It's not like you can solo this stuff. You got to listen to it in relation with the beat, because different beats have a different timbre. Some beats have really very harsh hi-hats, and then that would be a situation where you might have to muffle back the vocal. So taming vocals is a mindset. It's not, I took a de-esser and I slapped it on and I put it down. It's not like that. Or I took Soothe and no, it's really a mindset. You got to understand that, because even if you got Soothe, you might just overdo it compared to your the relation of the beat. So that's what I'm trying to help you understand. So those multi-band compressors, those very first ones, when it came to taming harshness, that would usually be like the drum bus. People would usually use like the drummer on the drum bus for like their overheads or their hi-hats, just like how a rap beat has the overheads and the hi-hats. It's the same shit, right? But now, with digital interfaces and all that stuff like that, now the vocals really sound a little bit too precise. That was a benefit of the tape. You had non-linearities, you had smoothing, a characteristic that the tape would always do. The tape would make you lose fidelity. So they never really had a problem with taming vocals back in the day, but the drums, like the overheads, sometimes it can happen, because you might have a drummer, he just banging on that bit hard. So, I'm going to talk about this a little bit further in my private community that I'm building right now. So stay on the tune for that, because that's going to come very soon, where I actually show you the acoustic instruments. You'll really be able to hear all that stuff. But when it comes to vocals, you know, let's pay attention too. So my release time on the higher band was faster. Understand that the higher frequencies, like 5K, 6K, the higher you go, that higher end frequency, it moves faster. So usually you have to have a faster release time. You know what I mean? Because the energy is faster. It's coming in and out faster. And also with the lower frequencies, they're generally slower because lower end information is sustained. It's kind of like a flood, you know, it slowly builds up the water. It slowly builds up the water and it slowly rises. But then the higher end frequencies, it's more like a big tsunami. It just woo, boom. It's just a big typhoon. And I can't even say that. It's more like a mini typhoon because it keeps coming. It keeps coming quickly, but in big spurts. So that's something very important to know. So with Soothe, I mean, it would get a little bit more intricate, but you could also de-harsh a vocal just using C4. And the thing about that too is that you have the behavior. So let's say I wanted to be a little bit more responsive. I wanted to act on that harshness a little bit quickly, depending on the rapper's flow. The rapper's flow is very important. Some people rapping slow like this, so you might be able to get away with the slower release time. But if somebody coming in there spitting like this, rapping real quick, the release time's got to be able to keep up with the rapper, or else it's gonna be like if you came behind the rapper's flow and you grabbed them like a security guard, you would be holding them back from moving the way they want to move. All right, so let's pay attention to how between electro and optical, you kind of hear a slight difference.
Thought he escaped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give him. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you kidding? Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, see that?
So you hear that it actually has a very big difference. Like the language of the multiband compression kind of changed, because with the opto, it sounds more mellow, it sounds more chill. What's how you doing? But with the electro, it has like a sense of urgency to it. Like it's adding more of that energy. So you gotta understand that as well. He was already lit, so I can do the opto. But sometimes if somebody's rapping too slow, too relaxed, you might want to use the electro one to, you know, it's still gonna work on that harshness, but it's gonna add a little bit of excitement. It's gonna sound like the person's in a rush a little bit. So you gotta understand that when it comes to taming harshness, like the behavior, like with the drummer, that's FET. With the CL1B multiband one, the CM2 or whatever, that's opto, so that's a little bit slow. So also the behavior of the multiband compression is important, and even Soothe allows you to do that because it has the attack and the releases. All right, the last thing that I wanted to look at really quickly is a situation where how I use something like a McDSP. I want to dial something like this in live right in front of you guys to really just show you, like, you know, taming harshness is a mindset. You know, you got to listen to the music in relation with the vocals, and I just want to do it live to show you guys how I process it. You know, it's easy to say a bunch of information on YouTube, but I'm just gonna straight up just show you guys, you know, what's the ear, like how do I get to the end goal when it comes to taming vocals. So let's listen.
Thought he escaped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give him. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you kidding? Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, see that she fiendin'. Thought he escaped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give him. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you kidding? Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, see that she fiendin'. Thought he escaped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give him. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you kidding? Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, see that she fiendin'. Thought he escaped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give him. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you can. Don't delay, cause we deliver. I was rolling with some heathens, find myself lost in the deep end. I ain't even trying to run, but she on me, say that she fiendin'. Thought he scraped the ceiling, push up on him, make him give it. Got some presents for the house, so a lot of shells and ammunition. Take that risk and push on shoving. If I don't, then don't forgive me. For my war, I lay it all. I'm hoping I can make a difference. Hoping I can make a difference. Big 13, I'm still that nigga. Loving on the home man, who you can. Don't delay, cause we
So that's a perfect example of how I like to just dial in something live with something like SA2A. And it's kind of a little bit better than, Soothe, because you don't have to worry about all the controls. You just got to pull these faders down. So let's go over the controls really quickly. All right, so when I was doing the harshness, I was listening to it in a relative position with the beat. And I was just paying attention to how, something like the highest tippity band, when you start to compress it, it actually starts to add a little bit of brightness if you paid attention. But I was just going for something like just a lot of control on the top. So it's kind of like you gotta be a sushi chef in your head and chop up the whole audio signal and just listen to, okay, my low mid sound a certain way, my lower mid sound a certain way, my mid range sound a certain way, my high end sound, like you have to have the ear imagination to hear this stuff while you're dialing it in, because different beats have different, hi-hats and open hats and different melodies and different sharpness. So it also plays into that, when it comes to taming harsh vocals. So the controls, I pushed the input a little bit just so the whole, audio levels hitting the plugin a little harder. And then after that, you have the shift. So the shift moves like the whole set of crossover points pretty much. So it makes it way easier than like a C4 where you got to pick the bands and everything like that. Then you have the range as well. So the range is pretty interesting with the range. You can go in there and get some deeper type of compression. Then you got a bunch of different modes like gentle, normal, and assault as well, so like you can really get aggressive with the tone. And then you have the band modes. So I love this plugin too because it's a dialogue processor, but the main thing about it is that it deharshes the vocals without having to go in there too much. It's like multi-band compression for dummies. So maybe you should try this plugin out as well. The McDSP bundle is just incredible. Just get the subscription. I mean, you can't go wrong with this one. So I just want to say thank you very much for being a great part of my YouTube family. I really hope I was able to show you guys a little something about, deharshing vocals. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate it now. Peace.